Stop stealing my bit. Welcome, everyone, to Life of Giants. I'm Deanologetic Marvel. This is Kyle Petrilla. We are, this show is based around, to start, was specifically around us just being, I'm a gigantic person, whereas Kyle is a miniature giant. We're very on the cusp of things. But we talked about our experiences as being big. But we went on to start talking about things about history and meditation. So we locked on to the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, and we're discussing essentially giants of history and how important it is to take those in consideration. So the last three parts, we've been discussing good chunks of book number 1. It's also a way of progressively getting through this. So for today, we're going to be going for verses 12 to 15. And we're going to discuss it. How are you, Kyle?
I'm living the dream.
Isn't that always nice?
And one day it will be true.
I mean, at one point, it will be a dream and not just a nightmare, right? That's a fair consideration. I think that on the grand scheme of things, like you said, sometimes you just have to let things go. And let them do what they're going to do. That's part of life.
Immediately throw my exact advice to you in my face. Could have been like 8 seconds later.
It's pretty much.
You're like, let's go live and fuck shit up. All right.
Yeah, and then he tried to steal my move by burping on cue. How dare you, sir?
I had to do it twice too.
Well, listen, that will happen. So. It's one of those things that I find that, like, I tried reading this by myself and it was hard, so I appreciate that we're doing this together just as a way of discussing it and going forward. So I guess we're without hesitation we will continue, and I'll read verse number 12 here so everyone can follow on. It says, from Alexander the Platonic, not frequently nor without necessity to say to anyone or to write in a letter that I have no leisure, nor continually to excuse the neglect of duties required by our relation to those whom we live by alleging urgent occupations. What do you think that means?
Okay, well, part of, it's like, well, it was easier when it was there.
All right, here. There you
Thank
go.
you. No, like, it's like you don't take the frequently. That's well, yeah, I don't know. Okay, do you have I have an idea, but I don't know how to express it at this moment.
It's understandable. So what I think is very interesting was, number one, was the idea of complaining of not having time to oneself. Right? Because I think at this point in our lives, we've learned that if you want to do something, you'll make the time for it. We've had the discussions with people that we've talked with where they don't respond in a timely manner. And they're like, oh, sorry, I'm bad at that. And you're like, no, you're not. You're just choosing not to respond. And you're like, which is like, I try not to hold that against people. But at the same time, you're like, I think I'm pretty important for myself. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but like, and the same thing where it's like people abandon or don't do their duties or their responsibilities in daily life. And they, oh, well, I had too much stuff to do. You're like, listen, we all choose to prioritize or not prioritize, right? Hey, Angie, how you doing? Happy Monday to you as well.
You can take it down if you want.
I can take it down. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
But no, it's okay. But the idea that sometimes I know for myself, and we've discussed this before, was the idea of being overwhelmed happens all the time in our daily lives. But that doesn't stop us from prioritizing and trying to get a clearer picture and say, okay, listen, I'm going to get these things done. I'm not going to get anything else done. Like yesterday we were talking, I had 2 shows. I had Generation Dan, and then we had the Roast of Cole Clayton, which, if you haven't checked it out, please go check it out because it is very entertaining. But like, that's, for me, that is a lot to do in one day because it requires a lot of talking and a lot of organization from my stand. So I'm like, we wanted to go out afterward. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm like, do I want to go to the movies? Yes. Is that a priority? No, I need to rest.
Will I fall asleep in the movies? Probably.
Well, that's why I'm like, listen, I'm gonna go to the movies and I'm gonna fall asleep in the middle of the movie because I'm exhausted, right? And heaven forbid, like driving home, you fall asleep. Like, there's a lot of things I'm like, do I have to take this risk? I'm like, there's stuff we can watch home, and we just did that, right? So
like, the odds are the movie you're going to see, you could watch at home.
I mean, yeah,
because I know you. Let's go see the Lord of the Rings.
I mean,
I haven't seen it on the big screen this week.
It was on the table. That's definitely a case. But it's one of those things where I'm like, look, there were things, but we have other days and stuff, and while we have a lot of shows going on, especially in the beginning of the week, it's like, listen, those are important. We can go at another time, and we can go and enjoy ourselves. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that's fair. I think taking responsibility of how we prioritize our days, I think is definitely a step in the right direction of being not in control, but in charge of your daily life. Taking responsibility for how you prioritize things, and also like, but being able to take the shame of saying, hey man, I'm just not going to get to that today. I'm going to have to deal with it tomorrow or whatever. And I don't think like, but that's the thing, is having that honest communication with whoever you're responsible to is valuable. It's worthwhile because you can have that conversation.
Yeah, like I'm dealing with some of that now. Like I have my other show sketched out, and like I have like somebody that's like, oh, I want to be on your show, and I'm like, all right, DM me if you're serious. And then I got the DM, but like I already know this person who is notoriously like ghosts me.
What's up, Paul? Yeah.
So it's like, it's really, and it's like, fuck. Like that's why I even said the DM me if you're serious, and was like, I got a DM about, and then like I'm like, all right, so we're planning for like 2 weeks away, and now it's like a little over a week. But like and it's like the only thing I've heard is I may not be here. I may be in another city at that time, and it's just like, well, how do you not know? Like in 2 weeks if you're gonna be in the same city, or like, you don't even need to. You need fucking internet connection. But like, that being said,
well, and that's the wild thing, is how much I know for a while. I forget which movie it was, but it was the whole thing about, hey, just take the shame, and move on, because we'll be like, well, it's not my fault. It is your fault. Take responsibility for it. Now, could it be avoided? Maybe not. Is it a big deal? No. But just take the shame and move on. Be like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry I booked this. I don't think I could do it. Okay, that's fine. We can all just move on, right?
Yeah, like I wish people would take fucking responsibility for shit once in a while. Like, and then also ease up on whose fault is this? Because who the fuck cares? Let's solve the problem. I've said this a million times.
Yeah. And we were talking that, and that's a huge a point that I think is important. I'm listening in the kitchen making dinner. Awesome, Angie. Let us know what you're making. Let's go on to verse number 13. Let's see here. So, from Catalyst, not to be indifferent when a friend finds fault, even if he should find fault without reason, but to try to restore him to his usual disposition, and to be ready to speak well of teachers, as is reported of Domitius and Athendotus, and to love my children truly.
So that is like, it's like, respect your friend's opinion, even if it's against you, which is, that's kind of a bold statement. Finding fault in you know, like whatever. It's not against it. It's just, I guess that's the defensive position. Find fault in me, will you? Fucking.
Well,
but that's what it's not. Like that. It's respect the opinion, and then converse to see how to get them back on your side, seeing your way. You know.
Well, like, I think we had talked about this before, and we sent each other TikToks about this, was that like, a person who always agrees with you is not necessarily your friend.
But useless.
Also useless. But then someone who will find fault in your reasoning or saying, hey, maybe there's a better way to do that. That person wants to see you grow. They
Yeah.
want to see you your best self. And you're like, that's a hard pill to swallow because, well, we're in a situation in the universe right now where people are like, I'm living my best life. You're like, are you? I don't think you are. You're not, doing the things that make sense, and you're kind of counterproductive. Donuts. Oh Jesus, I would eat donuts till the day's dead. But like that makes sense, right? Was that verse about saying to be open-minded and open-eared to your friend's criticism? Also true, right? Because listen, I've had people approach me and said, you're kind of unapproachable, and I'm like, that's true. I'm unapproachable. But I have no qualms of people who have always come to me, like I see them like gearing up to have a conversation. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? I want to talk to you. Okay, let's talk. And then they're so surprised by my response. Well, I'm like, okay, I understand. I'm not sure that I can change that, but I can. I hear you loud and clear. And one guy was like, you kind of are negative in your response, so you kind of lash out at people. I'm like, can you explain that? Oh well, I just heard from. Oh, so you heard from other people, and this has nothing to do with anybody. This is just a fiction. And he was like, and somebody's like, oh, can we come into this room? And I'm like, no, we're in the middle of something. And they're like, and I'm like, what? This is a private conversation. Get the fuck out. I'm sorry. Where's the confusion? And he was like, well, that's kind of the thing. You're a little bit harsh. Yes, I am a harsh person. And that's even Victoria has been like, you're mean. I'm like, I am mean sometimes, but I'm not mean because I'm trying to put you down. I'm mean because I'm like, you should know better, and I want you to be better for yourself. I definitely get a benefit, but I want everyone I know to be better. And that's a hard. I've
Yeah.
lost friends. I've lost friends over it.
Oh, I've lost friends over dumber shit. So like, whatever.
Also true.
Fuck, lose a
For
friend.
myself, not saying for you, but yes.
Dick? No, no, true. Yeah, like I don't. But like, it's funny. I have a poem about this. But like, I hold the word friend in almost the highest regard.
Yes.
Like, there's a lot more, and you'll see it in my speak when I like, because there's a lot of people that I just like coworkers or associates, and like, but like I don't have a lot of those anymore, but it's like I like a friend means something to me. So yeah, like Victoria was more on point with explaining this than fucking I was. But yeah, it's like, yeah, don't ignore your friends' critiques of you, even like it's worthy of addressing.
Yeah.
Unless it's that friend. I don't know.
But if they have taken the time to try and formulate a way to talk with you about something, already you're like, that they've invested and they're investing in me. So it's worth at least for me to hear their perspective and try and benefit from it. We're like, and a lot of times that's hard to conceptualize, to be like, this piece of shit trying to tell me how to live my life. And you're going, yes, but also, were they not just trying to maybe change your perspective because they see something and they're trying to say something? Like, it's not, and that's hard. Like, that's hard as a friend too, right? To be like, hey, I should talk to this person because they're doing some weird shit, right?
Well, it is difficult because they're not so willy-nilly with the free whatever. I lose a friend. Like, some of them might actually care. So
yeah,
it's not that I'm like completely indifferent. It's just like, well, even you see how things have been going. People are coming and going, and how much I can control of that is so minimal that like I don't care to. And I change behavior when it's necessary, but I'm not changing behavior just on fucking request. Because I know who I am, and I understand. As far as I'm concerned, whatever you call me from this is like, I have a much different perspective on life and everything than most people. So the fact that it doesn't line up and they don't stick around is pretty fine with me. I'm sure they'll catch up. That's where I'm. Fucking yeah, I'm above them. Fuck them.
See,
but,
and there's a some people don't get it, right?
Yeah.
I think that is true, whether we like it or not. It's one of those things where some people just don't get it, and whether that's youth or experience or just a lack of understanding of how the universe works, right? Not that we're some sort of masters of the universe or anything, but like
We just
it,
started the movie. Anyways,
but like that's it's one of those things where you're going, hey, like sometimes the world is a lot bigger than we think, and sometimes it's a lot smaller than we think. But some people don't get that that is life. Life changes on a constant basis. Life is constantly maneuvering, and sometimes like there's it's something the seals do. It's like it's your 3 foot world. It's like I can control 3 feet around me. Outside of that, nothing I can do about it.
you know, it's
Yeah,
that's
you
so
know.
amazing because like just watching SEAL Team. It's funny.
Hmm.
I've gotten a life lesson from SEAL Team as well that I want to. I, okay, there's two things I want to talk about. For one, I went back to Brampton, so let's bring that up after.
Mm.
But because it's pertinent as well. But no, the SEAL Team thing is like work the problem.
Yeah, yeah,
I started using that in September before when I got hired on to Hexwood
yeah,
for the building of like so post commercial because it was my first like laborious job I'd had in like a
quite some
year,
time. Yeah,
probably a little over a year at that time. Um, so it was like mentally getting me into the place, and it was insane. Some of the like pivoting
yeah,
and just problem solving and all that. Like it was like I explained it because it's just like, oh, what'd you do? Oh, well, I was a gopher. I went and bought shit. But like, uh, they had some insane requests, and it wasn't small stuff. And there was lumber. Like there was all just insane shit. They were like, oh, can you buy these? Buy me this Halloween decoration. Well, it was a 7 foot mummy, and I bought four. And then my Nissan Versa held considerably less than I thought at the time.
yeah,
Whereas I thought it would hold like three and it hold one. And then,
yeah.
so I had four. So, like, I was in, and I already had to go, like, I didn't even have a membership. So I went to Costco, I bought a membership, find out that Costco doesn't even have any. And of course it doesn't because it's fucking 3 minutes from my house. So I go to
Right.
Mississauga, go there, find seven of them, talk to my boss, buying four, know full well I have this trolley of shit that I'm gonna get to my car with no way to put it in. I'm not sure Costco really has a holding bay. I don't know. I didn't check yet. And then so I'm just like, I wonder how this is gonna work out. And but like I'm just like, but this wasn't even my first rodeo. Like I had done a lot of other things that just I managed to pull it out. So this time I was just like more confident going in it. And then like it turned so I ended up buying like an Uber XL to follow me home. And then like they dropped it off and I had to go get other stuff. And then I realized I had a van the whole fucking time. Like it's like which because
Yeah.
then I had to get it to like a city that was an hour away. And then I'm like, I can take one a day for the next 4 days. And they're like, we want them here. And then they're like,
Yeah.
we'll figure it out. And then, so I went in that day, but I had figured out, oh, I have a van. So then I show up and they're like, I've got everything here. Don't worry about it. They're like, how the hell did you do that? And I'm like, stole a van for a brief. And I'm like,
So, okay, this is one of the things that I used to do, and people are like, "How did you do that?" And I just be like, "Just
yeah.
magic." I'm like, I could explain it to you, but we're not talking the same language. Just, I'm a wizard. I use my magical powers, and everything is solved. That's it.
See, that
That.
would be nice, but I'm too addicted to telling the story.
You are addicted to telling a story. That is
But
fair.
like, holy shit, does my life provide some stories? And
Also true.
yeah,
Also true.
but okay, so I went to one of the things I was talking about, people, and
Hmm.
well, we were talking about, and I went to Brampton the other day
Yes.
because a bunch of old friends had formed like a cover band, and they were performing for the first time in like 10 years. And they were all from like legitimate bands, wrote their own music, all this shit, and now they're just like, we're old and let's have fun. And
Which is
so
fair.
yeah, it was. I wanted to go, but then that comes from like there's a lot of people from your past possibly popping up there. A city I no longer live in. People that they're like close to 10 years older than me. Like I lived with, or I was never accepted by my own kind. I was always with older people.
Yeah.
So there's like a different level of maturity. But then so I go there and I'm just like I feel it was so awkward and just like because it was super busy, so there was nowhere to really sit. And I'm just like, fuck. Now I'm just like awkward and but it was funny. I was worried. The whole point of this is I was worried. I wasn't even worried. I just knew I was going to run into this person who kind of did me dirty.
Yeah.
Um, in a not so direct way, but it was still what it is. It did me, and I've cut off communication for a while now, and he's tried a few times, and he came over, and I already was thinking about what I was going to say. And then it worked out very easily because he came over and I shook it. He said hi or something. I shook his hand and then I went right back into my phone and then he stood there for another like 5, 10 seconds, 15. And then he realized nothing's happening and fucking walked away. And that was me being, sure, it sounds immature, but like anything I said was just going to be meaner. He understood.
Yeah.
You know, this individual, like, and it's funny because there's a lot of traits I used to have that I'm still trying to get rid of, but like really just won't take responsibility for his own shit.
Yep.
And like, woe is me shit. And like, I have my own issues, but like just always, and it's just like, I have legitimate things that don't work out, but like he caused this problem, hurt me, career wise,
yeah,
and it's just like just by not being like taking the minutest amount of like responsibility for anything, or even like being an adult, like it was just like all the problems were, and then he tries, but it's just like letting this person back into my life. Like I even talked to my other friend about it who was on the other side of the conflict too, and he said the dude just like bitched and moaned the entire time. And then like it was just like, and he's just like, he referred to him as this Brampton trash who will never exist outside the city, like never, because it's just like, oh, I am here, I suck, blah blah blah, I'm a POS, blah blah blah, and it's just like, you know what, I'm gonna start agreeing. But it's just like, dude, I can't help you. You need to help yourself. And anything, this person, I'm just like letting them back in. Anything is just, they don't have a positive for my like, I don't see anything there. Everybody's gonna have something to bring to the table, whether it's just somebody to talk to that you like to talk to, but like I don't see anything that I'm interested in coming from this person. You know what I mean?
I can understand, and I think that's one of those things that will, like, you learn over time that not everybody deserves your interaction. It's that simple. Like, you're like, I don't have to. The word "no thanks" is a complete conversation. Thank you very much. I do not need to explain or anything. Sorry, like you said, we all have our own problems, and if somebody's going around going, well, I guess I'm just a piece of shit, so you're choosing to be that, like, that's weird. Like,
like we all have our moments, but others live
sure
in it. Like I know, like it's something I try to work on. But it's funny, I also had another thing this week that I will tell you a lot more about off screen. But there was a person I talked to through social media. Like I know them personally. Haven't seen them in not like 6 months. But I do talk to them semi regularly online, just like comments and whatever. And I sent them a message, and then they said something which I didn't quite understand, and then I sent something else which was like explanatory, but it's just like it was me looking for yes,
Yeah.
not trying to explain it to the opposite person, who
Mm.
then had some great disrespected. And like, so I was actually at like a concert at the time, and then so I sent a message, and then I come back to like half a page of horse shit, and it's like, whoa. First off, I don't know what the fuck your problem is. I don't know what's going on. I was
Yeah.
confused in trying to clarify, and you had a like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she was having this person was having like a fucking meltdown, and it eventually ended with us. Oh, it was a misunderstanding. But then, like, I had already unfollowed her, and I think that person has always already unfollowed me at that time. And then, like, so it was already just like enough. But like the things that were said and all that stuff just put a glaring light of like their personal insecurities and why they might have a problem with me. But but after there was some confusion, and then there was an explanation on their part of their reaction, which
Mm.
was, you know, they don't even see why what their actual problem is, which nobody really sees their own faults. But I didn't. This was a time where I'm like, I could have very well said things, but I left it with that, and then I stopped communication. Like there were so many things I could have said, but it was just like my mature, not worth the time, not worth the effort. A person that
Or
I can easily just be like goodbye and never see again. Like I have no
yeah.
emotional weight in this,
Yeah.
and it was like a fun friendship, whatever. But it wasn't worth. It was worth zero hassle to me, and as soon as there was some, I let it
Yeah.
go. You know.
I mean, listen, there's one of those things where sometimes you kind of just are like, I don't need this. This interaction is not beneficial anymore, right? Like
It,
that is a reality that I think is hard to come by. Like we were saying, is originally is like, listen, the relationship you have with your friends and friends coming to you say, hey, there's a real problem here. What's the deal, right? Is a big deal, but somebody just attacking you, you're like, yeah, that's not a friend.
no,
That's not, you know.
it was very much not only do I not need this, I particularly don't need it from you, because like
Oh
you
yeah,
don't have enough weight in my life for me to give a shit.
yeah,
So you can just stop typing now and we'll walk our separate ways in a sense. But it was like I was more cordial than that. But that's essentially what happened. And I'm
yeah.
just like, and that person clearly feels the same way as if I did anything wrong. But it's fine. You can
Yeah.
adjust it. I can be the villain in your story, you know, just
Oh,
omit all that good shit, you know?
there's a lot of people whose story I'm a villain, and I'm like, I didn't even like. I love. Do you remember the Street Fighter movie? It was a piece of dog shit.
I saw it in theater. Of
Of
course I love
course,
it.
as did
But
I.
that being
But
said, I love fucking Van Damme. And throughout
yeah,
that movie, I was quite the Kylie Minogue fan. But go on.
I mean that's totally reasonable. But I just remember Raul Julia as M Bison going, for you this was a life changing moment. For me, it was just a Tuesday. It's and you're just like, oh my god, because he was talking to Chun Li about how he killed her father, and he's like, this shaped your whole life, child.
Uh,
For me, it was just a Tuesday. I don't really care. And you're just going, that's I'm sorry. Sometimes you're just like, hey, you're acting as if this is our whole world. This is just a Tuesday to me. Sorry. I not my problem. Right. Like and I like there's a certain like I feel like you have to earn the moniker my friend. You know, like I always would tell people, like, there are three levels of friend. There are people I know, I know that person, people I associate with. So that could be through work or organization or something, but I have to spend time and have conversations with these people because of responsibilities. And then the third is a real friend, which is someone who I'm like, hey, let's go do something. I like spending time with you. Or if I'm doing something, I want you to come with me to enjoy. And I'm like, those are the three basic levels of interaction for me. I'm like, you exist, you exist in my world because of my own responsibilities, or I choose to spend my leisure time with you. And the fact is that, like, it's the same thing where, like, there are people who are like, you work with, they're like, we should hang out sometime, and you're like, no, absolutely not. And they're like, what? And I'm like, they're like, we're friends. And I'm like, we're coworkers, let's calm down. And they were like, I thought we were friends. I'm like, maybe someday, but right now we're just coworkers. So let's just relax, right? And just let's just take, because people were like, we should be best friends, and you're like, hey man, let's just calm down. Let's just relax. We don't have to do anything more. We just have to enjoy ourselves,
It
right?
really seems like an awkward way to tell me, but you know.
I just remember the caveat every time that you were like, hey, yeah, you can come work there, but you should know, like, I'm not going to be there. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to be there? Like, we're
And
not
then when
working
you
together. And you're like, yeah, we're definitely not going to work together. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I just need work. And you're like, oh, okay.
yeah, but then as soon as you start working there, like, you know, I did think I'd see you more. Like,
Also true. Oh, you
yeah,
just disappear. I'm like, where did he go?
yeah, for like that day. Like,
Yeah.
why? Because they sent me one place. Like, but I loved that about the job. One time I
Yeah.
had like 90 minutes to spare
Yeah.
because I had to go do something like on time.
Yeah.
But like I had this 90 and people wanted shit. But I'm just like, and I drive out and I'm just like, fuck. So I did the math and I'm just like, well, the store's 20 minutes away and then it's 20 minutes back. So that's already 40 minutes. Plus, you know, you don't just like pop lumber into a trailer. Like shit takes time. So I'm just like, so time, and I'm just like, I fucking turned around and went back in and fucking laid down for 90 minutes. Like it was like,
I mean, yeah.
but like that was like, but my bosses have been like, go stand there. We're figuring some shit out. And then like
Cool.
2 hours later, and I'm just like chilling, and they're like, yeah, okay. Like, and then if they're like, if anybody asks, you're doing what you were told. And I'm just like,
Which is super weird, but yeah, I get it.
no,
Right.
it's like, but like, no, like I had a very important job. And I actually had such an important job that, and like, I was so good at it. Like, they're like, oh, yeah, this is also, there was their biggest event ever at this point. And they're like, yeah, during our events, we usually have 2 of you.
Yeah.
So I was doing the job of 2 people and probably 3 because it was like the biggest fucking event that they've ever had. And, yeah, and I was, yeah, no, but it was cool because I was actually appreciated every day. Like that's why I loved it. I loved it. And then just waking up knowing that there was some shit that was like I woke up to email like messages of just like, can you buy these fucking 7-foot? And I'm just like, this is gonna be an interesting day. And then
I mean, that makes it better, right?
and it was a story that I still tell. And it was like, but it was fun and it was all about achievement. And then it was all about like stupid because it was like, oh, I had a van the whole time. But like I did problem solve all this stuff like along the way. And it was like, it was very crazy. And it took me like half the day. And then I show up and they're all like, I'm like, oh, I got it here. People are building them. And they're like, how the hell did you get it here? And I'm just like, I stole a van. And like, I borrowed a van. But it was just like, I didn't realize, like, they're like, fuck. And they had a talk, like during the phone call. I'm just like, all right, I need some things. And they're like, that's the resourcefulness that we fucking need. And I'm just like, thank you, because that's the compliment. Yeah.
100%. Okay. Let's go on to number 14 here. Let me put it up here. People can see number 14. So, from my brother Severus, to love my kin and to love truth and to love justice, and through him I learned to know Thrace, Helvidius, Cato, Dion, Brutus, and from him I received the idea of a polity in which there is the same law for all, a polity administered with regards to equal rights and equal freedoms of speech, and the idea of kingly government which respects most of all the freedom of the governed. I learned from him also consistency and undeviating steadiness in my regard for philosophy, and a disposition to do good and to give to others readily, and to cherish good hopes, and to believe that I am loved by my friends. And in him I observed no concealment of his opinions with respect to those whom he condemned, and that his friends had no need to conjecture what he wished or did not wish, but it was quite plain. I have mixed feelings about that verse because, well, I'll tell you why. Is that I hold family in the most high of regards, and I think it's very important. But at the same time, I know that I have family that don't think about family that way, and it bothers the shit out of me because I'm like, everyone, like, I had a sibling who was horrible to me. And hilariously, only now that they've passed away and I discussed it with the rest of the family, they're like, we did not know it was that bad. I'm like, well, now you know. I'm like, that's the reality of it. And they were just like, and then they shared how they had similar situations. And I was like, there you go. Like, and that's the whole thing is like, and even like, I'll go to Greece. If I go to Greece, I know certain cousins within hours, they'll be knocking on my door going, hey, are you here? I heard you're here. Are you here? I heard you're here. Right. Others that live the same distance away from my own home couldn't give a fuck. They couldn't be bothered to leave their own house and come by. And I'm like, bro, I've hung out at your house for days on end and just socialized and talked and stuff. And now you know that I'm here and you can't be bothered. That's weird to me. Right. So it's kind of, it's this weird thing where I'm like, oh, I'll make the time for family members, but I'm like, I'm not gonna, that's kind of true. But like
private chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, I've traveled so far. The least you could do is like, it's not like you don't pass by the house. You do, but you drive by. Just stop and be like, hey, I'm here. Come outside of your house. That's all you have to do. And I would come and be like, hey, great. It's not even like, it's one of those things where you're going like, yeah, you have to invest a little bit as well. Right. And that's why it's like the idea where, like, the idea of being honest with those around you, and they should never question what it is that my intent is towards them. I'm like, that's a great thing, but it's very rare and difficult to do in this day and age, I find.
So you think that they, like, I feel like this is like he learned from his brother. Okay, yeah, he learned from his brother, but it was like, no, but like your uniqueness, it's just like he had a better family, right? Like, or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
You know what? Like, I'm like, they do exist, and I don't understand them either. I understand what you're saying. I come from like I've always been like, and even online, there's a lot of like that whole blood is thicker than water. Like, isn't that even a bastardized?
It's completely backwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the water of the womb. It's the blood of the covenant is more powerful than the water of the womb.
Yeah.
Which is, blood is thicker than water. You're going, yeah, but that's not.
That's not that's the same as like the jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah, that's the opposite of the meaning, and the blood thicker than the water is also the opposite of the meaning, because jack of all trades, master of none, but in a crisis, always better than a master of one, or
a master of none.
Master.
It's the idea is that you're like, yeah, you need to know more than one thing.
Yeah,
that's actually the saying, and you're going, because the fact is, like, and this is why, like, I try and explain to people where it's like, we live in a society right now that is essentially run by lawyers and accountants. They don't know how to wipe their ass properly. That's a realistic explanation. Like, they have no concept of how to be a human being or anything. So in actuality, what you're talking about is, it's about legal liability. That has nothing to do with real life. And then accountant, we can save money here. No, you can't. You know why? Because the money that's being spent there, like on wages and benefits, is what keeps your employees. Like, we could just replace them with cheaper employees. No, you can't, because cheap employees do not do what the expensive employees do. there's an opposite saying in Chinese: too many swords, none are sharp. So, but that's the whole idea, right? Is that you, when you're not taking the time to sharpen your sword, right? It's not going to do the job that a sword needs. But but that's the thing, is it's not about how many that's a quality over quantity saying, right? Is the idea of no, I have one good sword that's going to cut through your 6 swords, magic, right? Versus some guy who's like, well, I got 9 swords. Yeah, none of them can cut anything. So what the fuck is the point? It might as well be a stick. Which, listen, let's be honest, a stick is the greatest weapon ever created. But still,
every man can appreciate a good stick.
Every man.
Just all the shit going through my head about like
sticks.
Well, is it every man? Is every man a man? Anyways,
fair question.
But I guess that'll probably come out at some point. No, like, but there is. It just brings me back to like Walmart thing now, and it's just like they've lost so much money on their self-serve checkout, but they're so invested in it that they're now trying to start a membership where you have to pay $98 a month or a year, sorry,
to be allowed to
self-checkout. So now you have to pay Walmart $100 a year to work for them. Like, no, thank you. I'm like, maybe this will finally be the demise of the corporate monster bullshit.
Yeah,
because now they're gonna have to. It's just like, this is what they don't want to do. They don't want to sell all their expensive machines. They just put it, and half of them are down fucking 90% of the time, anyways.
Yeah,
and then we have to hire people to man the cash registers. Like, have you ever tried to go to? You know why you self-serve? Because why the hell would you go to a cash register? There's like 30 people and one fucking person. Like, there's like 3 cash registers out of the 20 that they're there.
Yeah,
and they're slow as shit. And I go to self-checkout because, at the real register, nothing is free. So,
I mean, that's fair.
Feel. But no, like, it's, yeah. So they just hope that every customer is like only stealing $98 worth a year. Like,
well, that's the whole idea where you're going, listen, you've opted to spend tons of cash on robots, and then you realize that robots don't do shit, and then they're like, well, you have to respect it. You're going, no, I don't. That's like the idea where the idea of a greeting card doesn't weigh anything, the machine can't tell.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's hilarious, because like realistically is the idea that they're like, well, this is going to be better for who's it better for? Because the fact is, there were times in history where somebody who worked the cash at a grocery store, that was a real job. That was a real job enough that would cover life, right? So
there was a person who bagged your groceries, who probably wasn't, making life wage, but it was like a student job. That was the
student job. But working cash, you're like, no, you need to know what you were doing.
People would even carry shit to your car, and you without. And then, and are told to at least refuse the first tip. So, so it's, yeah, like, I'm like, and then now what? Now I'm paying so I can scan my own shit so that you guys can make another $1 billion. Like, there's a grocery store, like, they're going into it. It's like, they're telling, it's inflation. Also the CEO for apparently, I forget I don't know what grocery store, but for November and December alone was given like a $22 million bonus to like work that. And it's just like, like, these are public companies and we get this shit. But then they lie to our faces, which pisses me off more because it's undervaluing my intelligence. Just because I can't just because I can't like beat a corporation that's the size of the fucking US military doesn't mean I don't see what the fuck you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you lie to my face, and you just think about it. I'm just like, I bet you that guy was probably like, that's not even enough. And at the same time, what's the difference between 20 and 22 million? Like, would that have changed his life in any way? No, but you could take that 2 million and give $1,000 to 200,000 employees, or the math may be wrong. I think that's correct. So, and it's just like, and every single one of them would have been, their life would have been a lot better. They would have made bills. They might have had a little extra. They maybe afford a vacation. Like that extra's grand, everybody. But him, it would have been, but for that one person, meaningless. Fucking meaningless. Because next year he's going to make double. So, like, what the fuck difference is it? But why do we give these people this shit? Like, they're all just giving it back to each other. It's sickening.
Hilariously, like, there's been such a huge movement where people are like, replace workers with AI. You're like, okay, they've proven that that doesn't work. You need people as workers. But what it can do is actually become your CEO and do a better job. You're like, ha, 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 ha. You're like, listen, there are statistics that have shown, you're like, what CEO is in charge makes almost zero difference in the grand scheme of things. Why are they making big bucks? Well, they're responsible. Okay, show me how they're responsible. The amount of times that CEOs have left a company with a golden handshake of $50 million or whatever amount of money, and then proceeded to walk away, and they're like, wow, you know, he did horrible, but we still gave him, you know, $35 million to leave. And you're going, why? Well, that was in his contract. Okay, but you regularly fire people against their contract and don't abide by the rules and regulations set out in that contract. So tell me, who's this helping? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And that's the real crux of it, is that, like, now there's people who have shirts that are like, it's Steal from Loblaws Day. There's apparently on the calendar is in May. I forget which day in May.
Nice. But if you all do it in one day, they just beef up security.
You can't, there's no amount of security that you can enlist that would be enough.
Well, no, right? But like, you also don't want to be the one that gets caught. Like,
that's why I'm appreciative that I'm fast now.
But like, I was even thinking about like fucking Sears, which is, it's funny because that's like now long ago. But like, there was a pandemic ago. But no, like, so they have all these workers, and the company is shutting down, going bankrupt, blah blah blah. So you have all these workers who are now losing their pensions. Yeah, most likely losing no 2 weeks pay, no fucking severance, nothing. But they have to spend $5 million bonus to keep a CEO in their position, because they could just leave and jump to another company, but they need somebody to be there to do anything. So they give him like millions of dollars just to stay to see the end, while all the people who are actually losing money, but they can't just dip because they're a fucking cashier and you've been paying them shit for the last 20. So they're not in a position to like do anything. Yeah. So it's just like the wealthy getting more wealthy, and it's just like, but what for? Like, so you have 2 jets instead of 1. Like, it's just like unnecessary. Like you're just making the world shit. Yeah, for your own benefit.
Well, and that's the whole idea, is we are constantly distracted with bullshit. I believe, you know, we were at a bachelor party in Montreal, and someone said this, and I laughed my ass off because it was hilarious. He goes, well, sometimes you got to dazzle them with bullshit and then feed them the cock. And I was like, what the fuck did you just say? And I'm like, that is poetry. Let's just start there. But also factual, because just dazzle them with bullshit and then feed them the cock. And you're going, I mean, that's kind of how life is right now. People are just getting dazzled with bullshit and then getting fucked relentlessly, and then being told it's it's inflation. You're like, no, it's greedflation. Like, because on the same thing as the grocery stores, then there was a document that came out. They're like, oh, the markup on butter is 50%. I'm sorry, what? Why? And then recently there was a whole thing about how the amount of farmers that are given grants is quite substantial, to the point where the government could be like, you're producing too much, just dump it out into the sewer. That's it. Just get rid of it. You're like, for milk. And you're going, why would you be dumping out milk? If anything, that is a staple of so many people's diets, because it makes cheese, milk, all these things.
If you inflate the market, then the value goes down, and God forbid somebody affords something.
But the fact is that at the same point in time, when they're like, dump out all the milk prices doubled for no reason. So you're going, no, that doesn't make any sense. If anything, the overproduction of milk just means that that's a way to keep the cost low. You're not bringing down the cost, but you're not letting it increase.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is the hilarious part is people will use all this jargon to confuse people and be like, oh, well, that's that now, and you're going, no, but make it make sense. And they're like, oh, well, I can't explain it to you. It's very complicated. And you're like, great, uncomplicated. Make me understand. Because if you can't explain it to me, that means you don't understand either. And if you don't understand and you're the one in charge of making the decisions, that's a bigger problem. Me, I'm just some retard on the internet. What do I know? Right?
Yeah, like that's the mass distraction part is like something that I'm so amazingly aware of, and I feel like I am a 1%er in that regard as well. Like, because this whole, I'm gonna say it like this whole gender politics thing.
Oh, ludicrous.
Okay, it is. If this is why it bugs me. Like, I know a lot of gay, straight, I know trans people, like I know all the people.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with any of the people.
No.
Really. It's the movement of this gender politics, because all it is a big, like, Trudeau has run this country into the fucking ground in the last 8 years, and all we've talked about is gender politics and fucking COVID. I'm like, what are they doing that we're not even seeing? Because I see all that, But like, no, we're talking about, like, I don't know what country I'm in. I walk down the street, I see more rainbow flags than fucking Canadians ever, but whatever. And apparently they get grants for that shit too. But like, let's put some money into, like, but nobody can afford food, but they can all afford a fucking flag or like just, and then people are protesting. Have you ever seen a protest that actually like resulted in change? That wasn't like fucking, we're gonna die in China or not. They don't like or tearing down the Berlin Wall. Like, these are not what people are doing now. This is bullshit. No. This is annoying. All you're doing is blocking streets and pissing people off. Like, it's all, I don't like either side. And then there's always this like this bullshit storied report of like, that's just like so much fabrication of whether, oh, this side did this and this side was peaceful and or this side, and it's just like, no, lots of this didn't even fucking happen. And it's just, so that's the most I'll probably say on that subject. But it's just, yeah, the mass distraction. I'm like, if this is what we're paying attention to, which fucking matters to like fucking 0.01% of the goddamn population, so who the fuck cares? Like, I get it. I'm not doing a walk for like, elderly asthma, like, or like whatever the fuck, I don't know, the rarest of rare disease. You know why they don't get solved? Because there's 6 people in the world that have that problem, and then they die because nobody solved it, because we don't have the resources to solve everybody's fucking problem. But this is what the hell we're talking about? Like, fuck, man, you should, like, it should have been feline AIDS before this shit. Like, what are we doing?
But that's the problem, is that we live in a world of constant distraction and that's where you're going, look, whenever something blows up on the news, you're like, okay, what aren't they talking about?
But like, this is the beauty of this, the fucking absolute beauty, sorry, of it. It's just like, no, this is what we need. We need political things that if they don't work out, you are wrong. If you don't blindly support, you're wrong. Oh, you're a racist or you're a bigot. Like, you don't support Black Lives Matter, you're initially racist. If you don't report this, you're homophobic. Like, and all transphobic, all this shit. Like, look at what they did to J.K. Rowling. Thank God she has $1 billion and doesn't give a fuck. But it's just like, that's what they need. That's what they need. That's their wet dream. They're like, oh, give me a thing where if you don't support me, then you look like the bad guy all the time.
Which is insane.
Like, another one for the bad guy here. Fuck, whatever.
Well, at least you said it, not me. But no, but it's the idea where you're going, listen, just because I don't support what you do doesn't mean that I'm your enemy. That I'm saying is, hey, that's your thing. Go have at it. Everyone, like, one of the things here is the where is it, was administered with regard to equal rights and equal freedom of speech, and the idea of a kingly government which respects most of all the freedom of the governed. We don't have the rights that we used to have. And remember, like, the whole idea that, like, America especially fought off the British over a 1% tax And now we pay half. Half of our pay is taxed. That's crazy, right? But,
like, why did we come here? Yeah, but like exactly what you said, and like it's I love it because like with my previous political statement a moment ago, I've gotten into, and it was funny because I have a friend who I know is like so the opposite way, and like I do enjoy the person. Like I don't like I'd hang out and like I don't, but like your politics annoy the fuck out of me. But and then his response to something I'd post was agree to disagree, and I'm just like, because it's funny because before he was like, oh, everybody who supports this is so happy. I'm happy. It makes them easy to like unfriend. And I'm like, well, let's see how this goes. And then, so I guess I was a person that was like good enough to keep. And it was, yeah, it was agree to disagree. And I'm like, that was the best I could have expected. And that was a maturity on their part, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean,
so, but like, just because, sorry, there was I got on the internet once and I was just arguing with this fucking idiot about Trudeau and like how I fucking hate him. And then it instantly, like, it was so gaslighting, like it was so fucking libtard. Anyways,
yeah,
because the response was, "Oh, I guess we know who you stand behind," and it's like, "Oh, so now I support Trump because I think Trudeau's a fucking idiot." Like, just because you're one doesn't make you the other. I'm very moderate. I think they're all idiots. Like
they all share the same stage.
Yeah, you know, like, so it's fucking. I'm just like, that right there is another big part of the problem. It's just like, you know what? Like, it's not me versus you. It's us versus the problem too. I'm just like, I fucking hate this guy. I think he's doing terrible. You hate the guy that you think I support. Like, I don't support him either. But like, this guy ain't doing good. And right now, like, call him C. Like, where's Ralph Nader? Or what was the guy with the little, like, the fucking he ran like twice. The little like
Ross Perot.
Yeah. See the character.
He was right. He was right the whole time.
I was young. I was a little young for him.
So was I. But like, that's the thing is, he was like, no, we're allowing the government to take control and destroying this country. And he outlined everything that, like, listen, this is out of control. This is out of control. This is going to control. This is what you're going to see as a result of. And I'm telling you, we got to stop. And they railroaded that bastard.
That's amazing.
And you know what? Everything he said came true. Everything.
You know what I love about that is our current day is just the Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we can't have him. He's a little old. And then he's still doing better than the two fuckers that they like voted, like Biden and Trump. And like, they all look like hot fucking messes that are gonna die tomorrow, and he's like still with his wits, you know, like.
If anything, he's still going strong. All right. We're almost at an hour, so let's go on to the next one just so we can try and get through this. All right. So here's the next one. So from Maximus, I learned self-government and not to be led aside by anything, and cheerfulness in all circumstances, as well as an illness, and a just admixture in the moral character of sweetness and dignity, and to do what was set before me without complaining. I observed that everybody believed that he thought as he spoke, and that in all that he did, he never had any bad intention, and he never showed amazement and surprise, and was never in a hurry, and never put off doing a thing, nor was perplexed, nor dejected, nor did he laugh to disguise his vexation, nor, on the other hand, was he ever passionate or suspicious. He was accustomed to do acts of beneficence, and was ready to forgive, and was free from all falsehood, and he presented the appearance of a man who could not be diverted from right, rather than of a man who had been improved. I observed, too, that no man could ever think that he was despised by Maximus, or ever venture to think himself of a better man. He had also the art of being humorous in an agreeable way. Okay. Just to go over quickly here. The fact is that governing your own emotions doesn't mean you don't feel those emotions. It's the idea that you don't let them control your actions. It's the same thing of don't make a decision in anger or in sadness. don't make a decision in lust, and like all those things are going, because it will make a decision that you're not comfortable with. Like right now, they're saying how there was a huge study that came out where they're saying that like women on birth control are forcing hormones through their body that would actually make them choose a different significant other than they would if they weren't on birth control, because their body thinks they're pregnant. Like it's a different reaction, and you're going, holy shit, right? That's
Yeah.
a big deal. That's a big transition of comprehension and understanding. And a lot of people don't realize that you're going, that's the whole idea of not putting your emotions first,
Hmm.
as opposed to taking that time. But then, like, look, if never using a laugh to disguise vexation. I'm like, ooh, I think both Kyle and I are guilty of that one. But it's
No, I'm just pretty. Those. That's when I'm usually stoic. Like last night, or with the handshake with the dude, and then just went in my phone. That was my stoicism there.
Yeah.
Fuck, I wish this could stay open, but stupid fucking sun. Anyways, um,
How
there's
dare it? Yeah.
how dare it? No, like this seems to be like the entire stoicism in a nutshell, in one statement, to a degree, because it's just what I think of stoicism, anyways. But it's the like you feel the emotions, but like you can't act emotional.
Yeah.
And whether good or bad, which is nice in the because it can be inappropriate either way, and then it does give information, to anybody who is not you could potentially be an enemy. So yeah, too much information, and then if you act on emotions, then they are controlling you, and clearly, and then they know it too. So
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole idea, is that so often throughout history, people would play on people's emotions, and with that they were able to sway them, and we created things like a mob mentality. And like I remember the idea for myself, where I'm like, I remember when there was the G8 protest or G20 protest down in Toronto, and I was like, I was dying to go down there. I'm like, the problem is that what I wanted to watch was the transition from a protest turning into a mob. That
yep.
that that switch is very quick and very subtle, and the likelihood of being able to observe it, at least back then in Canada, was few and far between. The problem is that me at that time, being 400 plus pounds, I'm like, I'm gonna get shot in the face. Like there's no, an immediate threat. So I'm like, I can't go down there. But at the same time, I'm like, I wanted to be just to observe, but I couldn't. And in the same sense, you're going like that transition. And like you said, is people who are like, well, if you don't support me, then you're against me. And you're like, that's not how that works. You're like, I support your right to fight for your rights. That doesn't mean that I have to be right there beside you because it's not important to me. It's the same thing where people are like, well, I'm trying to do this thing. Good, go do it. Well, why aren't you helping me? Because it's not my fight.
Yeah.
Right. That's the realistic thing. And that's why it's people will use emotion to try and, well, don't you care about me? Of course I do. Of course I do. Well, don't you want the best for me? Absolutely. But I also know that if you don't get it yourself, you'll never appreciate it. Right. And that's one of those things where too often people are like, we need somebody who's going to stand up for the people. Great. And then when they do exactly the opposite, there's no recourse. There's no punishment. No one turns around and goes, well, this guy asshole didn't do what he said he was going to do. And everyone goes, I don't know, let's give him 8 years and see what happens. You're going, that's a huge mistake. Right.
But it is like it's just it's always like them versus us, or him versus him, like, because it's not a them versus us, because you don't even know who us is. Like you don't know who I am. Like you're just making blind allegations. But it's just like, can we not collectively, okay, regardless of parties, what if there is one party? Can we collectively look at Justin Trudeau and just say, hey, maybe this guy's doing a shit job. Maybe somebody else should. Whether they wear a red coat or a blue coat, I don't give a flying fuck. Or an orange one, apparently. or green, or a fucking one that's French on the back. Although nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. Not even the French do.
No,
Be
they
honest.
don't. They don't know what they're doing.
No.
And after working with them, like, can we not just agree that he's doing a shit job? Like, how are your grocery prices? Like, maybe, and then like all these people like, nobody will work for us. I'm like, well, maybe you're paying minimum wage and nobody wants to work for you. Maybe it's not worth working for you. Maybe even, and then it's just like, oh, we might have to shut down because none of these guys want to work. But we worked forever. I'm like, yeah, you worked forever and it got you somewhere. I've worked fucking so long and never got any opportunity. Remember when they taught you in school that you would like work for a company and you get promoted and move up and just do a good job? No, I worked my ass off, did better than everybody, and if anything was oversight because I was more important in the lower position than other positions, and they just took advantage of me. So that would never work. They even did a study that like if you do not leave your job every 2 years, you are missing out on money because you'd be making more by jumping ship.
I had that conversation with somebody who's like, I'm gonna start job hopping, and I was like, I'm very terrified about that. And sure enough, he did that, ended up with a great career and made way more cash than I did. And I was like, poo. And you know what? And I look back and I'm like, listen, I had a great experience with my career, and now I'm moving on to bigger and better things. But the fact is that you're like, that job that I had was kind of like the last opportunity for that, and now it's all gone, right? And you're like, yeah, that just doesn't exist anymore. And I worked with some people when I was working as a financial advisor, where I'm like, you are old as dirt. You should not be working. Like, your ability to communicate and conceptualize and understand new things is out the window. You should not be in this environment. And they were like, how dare you? I'm like, am I wrong? And everyone went, you're mean. I'm like, well, I am mean, but am I wrong? No.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the thing. They focus on the. Have you seen that clip about the tone? It's such a gaslighting thing. Like the dude said all this stuff that was, it was a male versus female like panel. So the dude says, and the women, they were like, oh, we all agree, but we don't like the tone. It's like, so you don't agree with, so you're gonna just attack. You don't even care about the fact that his argument is correct. You care that he said it in a way that was something less than respectful. Like, fuck off. Like, how about the message, man? Like, I'm sick of that too. I got that bullshit too. I'm like, you know what? It's all fucking nothing. And that's why she's somewhere else now. Like, I said the words. I'm kind of autistic. So whatever comes out, it comes out, so like fucking, you can deal with that too.
That's the one thing where I'm like, that I've been trying, I have been actively failing is a better way of saying it, actively failing at not saying the thing, because people are like, you should always say the thing. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to because I'm like, that has consistently
screwed you over.
Not been to my benefit. And I'm like, okay, then I'll just say nothing at all, which I'm like, I'm okay with that too. But the hard part that I'm really still struggling with is my face does not understand that we're not talking. Because I'll do this. People say something, and I go, and they're like, do you not agree? I'm like, no, I'm good. And they're like, you're kind of making a face. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Wait,
you're still making a face. I'm like, I can't undo this. Sorry.
I'm growing concerned. That's not just your face, because I see that a lot. No, mostly when we're talking.
That's fair.
But
no, but I think that's a good place to stop. I need to, speaking of ridiculously priced groceries, I need to go get more groceries because I am going through eggs like it's going out of style. That's
so one thing I have.
Fun times. Anyways, everyone, this has been Life of Giants. Next week we'll be back and we'll be discussing more from Marcus Aurelius and giving our flavor on the discussion. Please follow us at Dean the Genetic Marvel and Kyle Petrila everywhere. And we're doing all sorts of stuff. Do you have sketched out this week?
No, it's probably the week after.
Also, if you take the time to check out Cole at Sniffing Glue 22 and Atlas at
Is that just Atlas Novak?
It's Atlas Novak or Epileptic Comic. I'm not sure which one, but they are going to be doing Last Minute History tonight, I believe, on their channels. It might be on the Generation Dan RSS feed as well. So please feel free to check it out. It may even be on Twitter, but check those out because they're definitely handling some really cool stuff. Anything you want to add?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. We'll be back later. Bye.